all the seekers of truth. These days, there are people who are going all over the places to find out the truth, the enlightenment. And there are so many books available, so many people who talk about enlightenment. And this is only in this special age, which I call as the blossom time, is happening. If they are not seeking the truth, that means they are not yet evolved as they should have been. But this is a special time that we call as the last judgment, and that time has come. And the Quran is called as Qiyamah, and described very clearly what will happen at this time. All these have been indicated in all the books which are, I would say, mystical, or who we can call as religious, whatever you may call it, the mystic part of it. They have all indicated this time, by the end of this century, this should happen. And this has bewildered many people. They are going hither and thither, getting into problems. As it's very embarrassing what Dr. Derek Lee has told. It's a fact that I went to Russia and a scientist came forward. And he said that, "Mother, I've seen your photographs." And it says so much, because I haven't seen more than one line showing. It was very embarrassing. The whole thing was very embarrassing for me. And he said, "I've proved it now through all equations and everything," and he showed me the book, which is in Russian language, and all mathematical calculations, that one has to go to a vacuum state, a physical vacuum state, for reality to be understood. It was, I think, too much of science in it. But whatever it is, all these ideas, say of Quran, of Bible, of other religious books, all the religious books from India, could be called as a myth, and they were treated as myths. Many people thought it was just a myth, and they said, "No use believing in all these things. This is no thing." And also, through these books, people have been misled to do wrong things. So the whole thing got challenged also in a way that is not practical, is not beneficial, is no good. But when it becomes a real experience, you may call it subject, you may call it anything, but when it becomes a real experience, then you start believing in it as reality. But if a scientist proves it, which is scientific knowledge, then I don't know what to say. Then it really becomes the fact. And when it becomes the fact, it becomes the science. Science can be challenged. First of all, science is immoral. It is not bothered, as the science as it exists today. If they create atom bombs, they create other things destructive and use it for wrong purposes, There is no binding force on the scientist. They can do whatever they like. And people can use it the way they want to use it. But when it comes to divine force, the science is perfect, I must tell. You cannot challenge that science. You cannot. Everything that you know through the science of Sahaja Yoga, you can easily verify it. For example, firstly, it is said that your physical elements disappear. It's a fact. Without any money, without any fees or anything, just you get cured of your troubles. And when you get cured of your troubles, then you are amazed how through your own power you have been cured. But it happens. It has happened. You know, we have many doctors here. English doctors, not easy to convince. And they have seen with their own experience that many patients who were supposed to be incurable are cured. They have seen that many drug addicts got all right overnight. How? Without paying for it, without taking any medicine, just through their own power of Kundalini. Now this power of Kundalini was known all over the world, I think, because I find in their museums Kundalini drawn in the triangular bone, even in Sweden I saw. Or I should say it's in Finland I saw. Then also I went to Ukraine in their museum. There are all pictures of these chakras and of the Kundalini. And in a far-fetched place like Bolivia, where we could not reach there even by air about, I think, 6 years back, you find the pictures of Kundalini. And Colombia, the ancient Colombia, had created statues in which Kundalini was the main thing. So somebody must have told them, or they might have known about it. But somebody went from Italy to Bolivia, and the Bolivian people said, we know all about it, yes, we know. But we don't know how to raise the Kundalini. And now there are, I think, 8,000-9,000 people in that far-fetched place of Bolivia who have got their realization. For which you don't have to pay is the main thing one should understand. It's like you don't pay for your breathing, you don't pay for your digestion. In the same way, for your ascent to a new life, last, we can say, the breakthrough of your evolution, for which you don't have to pay. As soon as you understand this point, you'll be amazed that you'll give up all nonsensical people who are marketing their things, selling their things. You see, it's something absurd. The absurdity to such a limit that you become blind and you don't know what they are doing, what they are up to. I don't want to listen to anybody who wants to tell you the truth. Now, if we have to see for our own ascent, as they say in Quran, Miraj. In Indian, this thing is called as self-realization, Atma Darshan, or you can call it Atma Sakshatkar. If you really want it, it's very easy and has to be easy because it is so vital. And when that works out, you actually experience it and it can be tallied with a description of it. The trouble is we are so mental. We want to derive everything on a mental level. Now, thank God the scientist has found out something for your mind to go round and round and round and reach the point. Because I think sometimes this mind, which is filled with all kinds of false ideas, sometimes slightly right ideas, or sometimes real ideas, they go on bombarding in your head. And this scientist has said that you have to go to the vacuum, which Jung has described as thoughtless awareness, to become thoughtless. When you become thoughtless, then you can see, feel reality. So what happens, how do we get thought? When we go to some place, we see something. Immediately we react. That's our habit. This can be also proved scientifically why we always react. Either we react towards it or we absorb it. So all the time our mind is working, and it is a wobbly mind. You are all the time bothered with it, and the modern times are the worst, though this is a special time, as I said, because this is the time when people think the most. And this thinking goes on acting in such a way that they suffer from all kinds of diseases. Also, sometimes this mind doesn't tell you that this is wrong, that is wrong. You go on doing things, for example, Hitler, how he behaved, how he killed so many people, but he never realized he was doing something wrong. Never. Ultimately, he killed himself because he was afraid that he'll be caught, but not that he repented. So they go on doing wrong things all the time without knowing that they are doing wrong things. Now to say this is sin, that is sin, only fills people with fear, that's all, and guilt. But actually, when you become the self, in the light of the self, you know what is right and what is wrong, what should be avoided, what is not beneficial for you. You just know, because you know about yourself. You get the self-knowledge. That is, you can feel your centers as being told to you on your fingertips. This again is said in the Quran, that at the time of Qiyamah, the last judgment, your hands will speak. But whole thing gets perverted sometimes by using it for a wrong purpose. That's how we have destroyed sometimes the real knowledge, the subtle knowledge of our being. It's nothing to stand for hours together on one leg in Himalayas, torturing your body. You don't have to torture your body at all. People think that if you have to perfect yourself, you must torture. This body is the temple. What is the use of building temples after temples when you cannot build your own temple? This body is the temple, and why should you torture this body? You must look after this body. Look after with love, with respect. And then only you will realize how important it is to have a body. All these funny ideas, of renunciation and all, false kind of approach is not going to help. My daughter was coming from India. She said there were some queer people traveling with us in first class. So they wouldn't allow the air hostess to come and serve them because they cannot allow an air hostess to talk to them. So I said, did you talk to them? I said, how could I? I'm a woman. How would talk to me? Because she's a woman, nobody would talk. Then sat on the ground. There's no ground, but they wouldn't sit on the chair and eat the food. For what? Because they are renouncing everything. I think they have renounced their brains. That's what it is. All kinds of stupid things people do. For what? to achieve that state of tranquility, the state of self-realization, of self-knowledge. But just think of it, which is what has to happen inside. What's the use of doing something outside? Unnecessarily making a mess of yourself and of others. It is absurd the way people try to understand that by troubling your body, by making a mess of your body, making a mess of the whole society, that you can achieve something which is so subtle and beautiful. Now the scientists call this all-pervading power, which I say, of divine love, as cosmic energy. Now they may call it by any name. But it's nothing solid. It is love. It is love of God. And this